Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope all of you are doing well. Man, I cannot speak. Welcome to day 31 of the Halloween horror. We finally made it. This has been for my first year has been a rough, rough series. It's not going to be perfect, but hopefully this time next year it'll be a little bit smoother. But all I have to say is just thank you to everyone who's been tuning into the series. Some videos have been doing better than others, but that's okay. But yeah, just want to say thank you, and let's go ahead and get into it. So, for day 31, I thought I would go with one of my favorite horror films. It's a very underrated one, and that is Phantasm, the first one out of the series. So, Phantasm to me is very underrated. It's not a film that gets talked about. Hell, even the franchise itself doesn't get talked about a lot, which is unfortunate. It's not one of the bigger franchises out there. I mean, when we look at horror icons, we think of Michael Myers, Chucky, Jason, Freddy. We think of Leatherface, but we never say anything about the Tall Man. Hell, even Ash from the Evil Dead gets mentioned more than the Tall Man. And the Tall Man is such a interesting horror icon and a very menacing one, to say the least. So the film follows three friends. You have Jody along with his little brother Michael and their friend Reggie, and they're just living their normal lives. One of the friends of Reggie and Jody passes away. Michael, who also I believe knew the person. They attend his funeral and things like that. But later on in the film, Michael discovers that the mortician, of course, the tall man played by Angus Scrim, the late great, uh, that he's literally lifting these caskets like they're nothing, and starts to notice these little creatures hanging out with him. Of course, he tries to get the help of Jody and Reggie. They both think he's crazy, but then eventually they start to see what's going on, and one thing leads to another. I don't want to give away a lot of the plot for those who have not seen this movie, but like I mentioned, it's a very underrated film, and even the franchise itself is underrated. The horror icon is underrated. Like I said, it doesn't get talked about often. Now, the great thing I love about the late 70s, when you think about the films that came out at that time, Phantasm, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, these films were independent films. These weren't done by studios. The budget was very, very low, and for what they did with the budget, I have to say, really, really worked. And I believe from what I've heard is that these films did eventually become successful. I mean, Halloween, I believe, did really well. Phantasm did really well. So it's crazy to think that at that time, those films were just independent, low budget horror films that would become big, major franchises throughout, the next few decades. Now, I thought everybody's performance was great. There wasn't really any minor complaints. I mean, you can't really expect anything, special. I mean, some acting's good, some acting's bad. Some of the effects may not hold up. And the one thing I love about horror films from the 90s and 80s that I prefer over modern day horror is the practical effects. I mean, here we are in 2022. We're using CGI, and we still to this day apparently don't know how to use CGI right, because we still have awful CGI in films. And I feel like they need to start putting more effort into these movies. And an example of this, I've probably mentioned this in a few videos. When the Star Trek: The Next Generation Blu-rays came out, they went back and redid all the CGI from the series. If you look at the DVD copies and you look at the Blu-ray copies, you're going to see that the CGI is completely different. And I feel like that's exactly what these studios should be doing. Go back to these films before any of the effects were done. Redo them, make them look better, then re-release them on Blu-ray or 4K. Yes, you can add a little bit more. Yes, it'll take it'll be a little time consuming, but I guarantee you, you'll make your money back from what you lost when the film was released in theaters. I can guarantee that, and I really wish studios would do that. But yeah, the practical effects on here are great. I don't care if they're cheesy and terrible, they're always great because practical effects to me just seem to be 10 times better than CGI. I mean, like I said, we're in 2022 and we still can't get CGI right. But with that being said, check out Phantasm. I don't think you guys will be disappointed. The sequels are good. Some are better than others. But all in all, I think it's still a great, fun franchise and a very underrated one at that. Thank you guys for tuning in to my 31 days of the Halloween horror for 2022. We did it. We made it. A lot of great, a lot of great films that I've been able to watch, and we'll see what next year holds. Hopefully, my horror collection will build during that time. I can only hope, but we'll see what happens. And hope all of you end up having a great Halloween. Hope everyone stays safe. And until then, take care. I'll see you in a future video, and happy Halloween, everybody. Peace.